this news came out of the financial reporting that Nintendo did last week. We talked about that, but this little bit of news has been making the rounds this week, and that is that the Nintendo president, Furukawa, made a statement in the report or somewhere in the meeting about tariffs. So we all know here in the United States that the government is putting tariffs on different countries for various different, items and stuff. And like a lot of electronics.
But in a nice, predictable, clearly articulated way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, according to Nintendo, go on.
But Furukawa's statement was essentially that they are prepared for things like this. I don't know that he said, that anything is, that it doesn't matter, but essentially kind of saying that they have been preparing for this and inciting that they have, manufacturing, as I think we've discussed on the show before, in other areas, in particular Vietnam and Cambodia. And so I think the way I take it is that, they'll be smart about where they ship which units to.
Yeah. I mean, right now it seems like a lot of the big tariffs are, other than the ones that are strangely going to our closest allies and neighbors, Mexico and Canada, feels like a lot of them, there's like a 10% one that's been levied against China. And so historically, a lot has been coming out of China. And I think this just might see, like you said, a lot of either moving shipments to their Vietnam headquarters and then shipping out of Vietnam to bypass these tariffs, just relying on the Vietnam and Cambodian factories in order to produce more equipment. But I think on top of that, I don't think this is just about the tariffs. I think this is also about exchange rates. The yen is still as weak as it's ever been right now, which is not a bad thing for Nintendo, to be honest, because it means it's going to be cheaper on their end manufacturing wise, and then they'll be making more with a strong dollar overseas than they would be at home. So I think that they're excited to get things out in the international market outside of Japan right now. But I just think all of these factors are sort of swirling around at the same time. And it sounds like Nintendo kind of has an in-house kind of keeper of the world economies that's kind of trying to figure out the best practices. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Switch 2 come out at a lower price point than I think a lot of people are actually predicting right now. Furukawa has even said as much, that they are going to be, trying to keep things as competitively priced as they've always been historically, right?
Yeah,
so I wouldn't expect a $500 Switch 2 or anything like that, even with the whole tariff situation.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear your opinion on that, David, because Nintendo has, in my mind, something that I always see them as being the accessible option, right? People who are like thinking about like dipping their toes into video games and don't have like any, video game history, they get into Nintendo because it is the more affordable option. So the idea of a $400, $500 system is like, that puts that away. So that makes me feel a little better hearing that.
Yeah,
$350 I can handle.
Yeah, and I mean, I still am a $399 Andy on this. I think we're going to be seeing a $399 price on the Switch too. But like, $350 is not out of the question. I'm not an economist. I'm just a fucking idiot. Okay, talking on a podcast on the internet. I certainly don't know anything about this sort of stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it coming competitively priced. They've all of their consoles they've ever shipped up to this point, they have not sold at a loss like all of their competitors have. So if this is the first one, and still, I think that this console is going to be made for relatively cheap. I mean, they're not putting OLED screens in it, according to all the rumors. So that shows that they're trying to even cut corners where they can to keep the price down. So I would expect it to be competitively priced.
I was just talking to my students last week about early 4th generation handheld console war and how the Game Boy came out for significantly cheaper with way worse features, than the Atari and Sega competitors, and the Lynx and the Game Gear, and the Game Boy just blew them all out of the water because it was so much cheaper to start with, and also just the battery life was ridiculously better because of its terrible graphics and audio. And people were like, yeah, I can play more game. I don't care how many colors you have.
Exactly. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Make it look worse, last longer, good game.
Put it in more hands, fun game.
As the old adage goes.
But like two sides of the coin, because now that I have an OLED screen, I feel like I can't go back, and you reminding me of that also makes me mad. I noticed a scratch on my OLED screen the other day. And the first thought I had when I noticed it was, but the Switch 2 is not going to be releasing with an OLED screen.
Well, hey, good news. I actually have a Switch 2 for sale right now for $41,000. Trying to make a profit
That's
on
fair.
this.
That's
So,
fair.
yeah. So hit me up.
All right. Well, our last bit of news here is the Nintendo Alarmo device is now generally available to the public. As you may recall, it was
For $43,000.
just given. Alarmo was previously only available to Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, and you had to have an NSO account. But now anyone can get it through the Nintendo website. What do y'all think? Do you think this was... Oh, you've got one. There it is.
Yeah.
That's what you were doing.
Oh, you went to your bedroom to get it.
I went to
because
my bedroom to get my Alarmo that I've never actually turned on.
You've never even used it?
Well, I'd say you got my bed
I
stand's a
wanna
little too low, and I gotta put
Well-
it up. I keep forgetting to set my Alarmo up, but I did want to show that I do indeed have one. I got one. for
Yeah,
Christmas.
I'm actually really eager to hear about it. So you need to start using it.
Okay.
Before we close out, because this is kind of a non-news item, but I am
Well-
curious to hear y'all's take on why they did this. Why do you think they set this as an NSO only thing? Because I don't know that that's like people are going to be like, oh, I'm going to have
Is
to
there a big
subscribe
demand
to.
for this? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
The thing that's confusing about it is that you need NSO to use the features, don't you? Or are they making like an NSO less like mode to it?
I don't think so. I think it was just a
Internet.
No, you don't. I don't think you need an NSO subscription to use the device.
I
right?
thought it was
It's-
linked to your NSO subscription to use the
it was
features.
in order to purchase it, right? But that's not going to be the case anymore. In fact, Nintendo is putting Alarmos in a lot of hotels in Japan right now. Actually.
Stop.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's another news item that we don't really have on here, but we'll lump it in here. So it's like once you like you could buy an Alarmo on the black market and like and be a PlayStation Plus guy and still use it, you know. But it's like, I think to answer your question, Patrick, I think that this is a test run for pre-orders for Switch 2.
Yes.
Right. And I
100%
think you
agree.
guys talked about that last week, I think, on the show. And
Mhm.
that, I mean, I completely agree with that. I mean, I think that that's also kind of a reason that I think that, you know, bringing it back to Switch 2 pricing, I think that that is a way that Nintendo will be able to sell the Switch 2 at a lower price point, is because they're going to be wanting to hold pre-orders for that first batch back for people that have NSO accounts, with the main reason being seeing how many people sign up for NSO subscriptions just to be able to get a pre-order. You know what I mean? So if you take into account the $20 a year or whatever it costs to have an NSO account, you know, then you're like, oh, that's only what's $20 in the face of $350 or whatever. I'll totally get that, so I can make sure to have one day one, right? So I think that they were kind of testing out something like that with hardware with Alarmo. That's my theory on it anyway, but I really see them doing that going forward.
I just want to note that the frequently asked questions on the Alarmo purchase page includes the question, what bed sizes are compatible with Alarmo? Which is not a question I have asked with any frequency of any alarm clock, but I can reassure you it is compatible with twin to king size beds. So
Oh yeah.
pretty much covers it.
That's great.
Yeah, that's all of them, right? Like,
Will it work in my conversation? picks?
California King incompatible, unfortunately, apparently.
Yeah, that's just a little too big. Yeah.
It is incompatible for couples.
That was what I was
sadly.
going to bring up again was
Yeah.
I have 2 dogs that sleep in the bed with me. That's like literally been the reason why I haven't gotten this, because y'all know I love a Nintendo gimmick. I just can't justify knowing that it's going to pick up every dog fart, and it's just like, that's not me, man.
The frequently asked questions cover that as well, too. It does say, can
Oh,
Alarmo be
really?
used if you have multiple sleepers and or pets in bed? And they just recommend using button mode in that.
Oh, see, that takes the fun out of what it's all the features. I should get I should get a discounted version.
At that point, it's
I
just a
agree.
very expensive alarm clock.
Yes.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
much as I want to be woken up to Pauline singing Jump Up Superstar,
Yeah.
I can still do that with my phone.
Yeah, exactly. You can put the sound of Pikmin dying as a ringtone. You know, so who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
all
Hey,
right.
that's one of the alarms. Is Pikmin dying?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Precisely.